What's your preference for like when you formulate like your level for a root shadow? Do you go one darker than their natural, or do you keep it at their just like preference?
This is a hard question to answer because everybody has their preference. I only go half shade darker. It makes me comfortable because I do process the full processing. I do let them sit the full 20 minutes. That's just me. Some people are like, oh, I only have 6 minutes to let it sit, and that's all about how they want to execute but with Matches Balayage, we do suggest to use the full processing time. So what makes me comfortable on damp hair is half. So say I wanted like a 7, I would literally use like a 7 and then do like a little bit of a 6, something like that, and then do the root shadow on that portion. Yeah. So do you want me to show you how we teach to do root shadow placements?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you want to see it? Okay. The demo classes, these are just kind of like literally we just kind of just like get it in there. I definitely suggest if you want something that's so impactful and your hands are in it and you're touching it, do one of the hands-on classes. It's really the only way that you're really gonna like touch and feel, because let's be honest, we can only talk for so long. That's why we just do a 2-hour, because it's just kind of like you're like blah, 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 and then you can only repeat so many times. So when we start our perfect shadow replacement, we'll take it right down. So pretend she is colored, she is balayaged, and we are like, you know what? We just feel like we want a shadow root. We did our placement the way that we needed to, and we executed it properly, but we don't rely on our shadow root, but we would love to have one. So this is when I do take a nice section, because it does help. Put it right in half. If you look at my fingers down here, I always use my other hand as something like, it's like energy to help me like get this section. Does that make sense? So that way I know my comb is gonna try to touch my fingers, okay? It's like a weird thing that you might do, and you might be like, oh my God, it worked. Just to help you get the section where you want it. So I'm gonna take my finger, and you're gonna watch my finger, and I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna start about here. I always start right below somebody's wave pattern. How many times have you heard me say that today? All about their head, you know what I mean? Everybody's head is differently. You can use a comb, you can use a brush, whatever you wanna do, and I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna take what type of section have you seen me do all day, right? How many times have you seen that? So I'm gonna take a pie section. Sometimes I don't grab those little hairs at the bottom because they just fall like that. But, so I'm gonna take my section, I'm gonna hold it with tension, directing it this way, taking my product, boop, boop, boop. I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna gently brush, 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 take my section. I always go over the top of my hand here. And I, again, brush, brush, brush. Say her TZ light stopped here. I always say, literally, this is so dumb, this might not help you, but I literally see my pinky nail, and it has to be that much past my T's. So say I did the weave and the T's, and you have that little section that's like, kind of like, oh, I didn't buffer out as much as I wanted it to. I literally will go past my pinky nail, and I'll just paint it in. Okay, does that help? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna keep going, and I have that color there. I'm gonna take my section, grabbing this, taking pie section. As you can see, I'm working up that part. So now I'm here. Go back a little bit. Now I'm here. Does that make sense? And then I'm gonna go here, then I'm gonna go here, then I'm gonna go here, and work my way up. Okay, all the way around the shape of the head. Continuing on, paint, 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 color, paint, 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 paint. If you prefer to brush at this point, brushing the direction, the opposite direction from where you're working, not towards you. Why? If you're pushing the color away from you, that's going to give you a little bit more depth here when it pushes back forward. It's like over directing your haircut backwards. It's preserving length, so you're going to preserve your brightness. From here, I'm going to take my section, and I'm going to work up this way, taking another pie section, if I can see it, pie section around the shape of her head. And we're going to paint this way, boop, 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 color, push, literally all that tension, 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 tension. Push, 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 push. Taking my next section. Gosh, you have so much hair. I'm working up the shape of her head. Now I'm getting a little bit more vertical. Paint, 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 color, paint, 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 brush. Next section. Holding it, finger. Now I'm kind of just gonna glide around the shape of her head. I always take my section, hold it, paint the one side, paint the other side. I never go like this, paint, and then take my section. It helps me stay cleaner, it's personal. I don't want my fingers to like touch anything or like mess anything. So I'm gonna continue doing that same process, painting, following up the shape of her head, painting. I'm gonna keep going. Why am I taking sections like this rather than horizontal sections? Does anybody know?
Darker than your view.
It's like a saving grace. Because if I'm going to go in and I'm going to go like this, and I blow drying her, and I worked so hard on taking that diagonal back or that diagonal forward section, and I created a horizontal line with my root shadow, and I ruined the whole thing. Even if it is the back of the head, like I will stare at it and be like, what? I need to go back and fix it. So taking these sections like this and like moving the color with it, the shape of the head, again, the over direction back kind of gives you that like little wiggle room there. However much product you're comfortable with, I don't put a ton of product when I'm root shadowing. I make sure that I'm nice and gentle when I'm root shadowing it. Again, elbow. Even when I'm painting color of any sort, I'm not flicking my wrist, okay, or like going like this with my color or with my brush, okay? If for some reason I need a blending thing, I'll literally take my finger and I'll just boop, 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 rather than using my brush and flicking color around, because it really does make more of a mess. So wherever you decided to put their face frame placement, we always section out whatever our face frame placement is for that client. Say we did the $1 million money piece, we did the pivoting face frame. Whatever placement that we chose to do, that section is going to be left out for the end. So you have your, I guess you can call it your balayage section, whatever your work you did back here, and then you have your face frame section, okay? So my face frame section, say it's here, normally it's not more than 3 fingers in my opinion. Sometimes I just try to go 2. It just depends on their look that they're going for, of course, but again, if their hair part's really, really deep, it's going to be completely different on one side than it is on the other. So just keep in mind whatever placement you chose to do for your face frame, this is how you're going to do it. But say I did our $1 million money piece, so that's about 3 fingers back. What I'm going to do when I do this entire section, I'm not going to take this and like completely fluff it back, okay? I don't want it to mix in with this because I probably maybe brought this down 2 fingers, whereas the front I want to bring it down like a root tap rather than a root smudge, or whatever the heck you want to call it now. So what I actually do is I take my section as a whole and I'll pull it down like this. And I'll tap, 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 bringing it down, pulling it forward, pushing it like this. Why am I pushing it the opposite way of what I was doing back there? Over direction, but this is over directed the opposite way. So I want to make sure that this part stays as bright as I can, so I'm just like brushing it forward. So only kind of like the underneath of that highlight's getting a little bit brushed. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This again is if you want your money piece to pop, but why are you doing money piece? Or money piece, face frame piece, whatever you want to call it. Whoever trademarked what, your face frame. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take my next section and I'm gonna hold it out. What helps me, if I'm afraid of getting any color on me, on my gloves, I will literally put conditioner on my fingers, just to protect. Brush, 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 all forward, brush, forward, forward. So this section lays forward, this section lays backwards. And if they're like laying down in a bowl, I'll literally take, I'm sure you've seen it, towel, foil, plastic, papers, lay it back just to get it out of their face. But I'll keep holding this as a fold. And if you so desire, if you want to brush it, only brush this way. Don't take it and brush this way because you're going to lose it all. It's going to be gone. Yep. And you're going to cry. You're like, darn it. Shouldn't have done that. Pretty easy, right? Just follow the shape of the head. Follow the shape of the head. You're going to hear that forever. Thank you so much.